Okay, we're going to start. Big audience today. This is good. First, this is the Capital Outlay Committee. Today is the November 28th, Tuesday, and this is our meeting to discuss the Capital Outlay Plan. I'd like to do some introductions with our committee. Mark?
Mark Kelleher, representative of the Finance Committee.
Paul Doan, a representative of the town administrator.
Rich Larius, Town Administrator.
Martha Donovan, Select Board.
Ann Tucker, Planning Board.
And I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. And this is the holiday season, so I like to extend the meeting. So your paper probably says about an hour and a half. We're probably going to go around 4 hours, so that we, in the holiday spirit. Okay. So we have some business that the committee has to address, and that is, you all got to, I speak to you all, us, have to approve last week's minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All agree?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we got that over with. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, do you allow public comment?
No,
It's a closed meeting.
it's a committee meeting. I mean, public comment on,
Well, I have been asking the question about whether or not Harwich could implement electronic clicker voting at town meeting.
that would go to the, to the Board of Selectmen.
And they have ignored it.
This committee doesn't address elections.
Do you address finances?
There is a finance committee that would address finances. We address any capital expenditure greater than $50,000.
Okay.
That is requested by a department within the town.
Okay.
So I don't want to shut you down.
Oh, no,
but
no,
I'm giving you directions.
yes,
Put it-
that's why
put
I'm
it
here.
that way.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah,
Sure.
there is a finance committee
Yeah,
that you could address that to. We have the assistant town manager
yeah.
sitting to your right. Can you maybe add on to that? Megan?
Yeah, Megan, thank you.
Rich is correct. This isn't the proper venue to ask for things like that.
Okay.
You can put in a formal request to the select board or attend a FinCom meeting.
Okay, I'll probably do both.
And your name is?
Yeah, Patrick Otten. I live in East Harwich.
So do I. Congratulations.
Yeah, all right, it's a good
No,
spot.
Patrick, your best bet is if you're not getting a response, like you say, from the Board of Selectmen, or, that they have a schedule of stuff they have to do,
Right,
there's a finance committee,
yes.
and they address the financial impact on the town on expenses and purchases and so forth.
Yeah. Typically, clicker electronic voting is about 20,000, so I didn't know where to start.
Well, the other thing is the town clerk.
I happen to know. Yeah, okay.
You buy it, you use it, correct? Again, if you want to step up, we can address this before we start.
Good morning, Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. My understanding would be it could be a purchase by the town, could be a request of the moderator, could be a request from the clerk's office. At this point, we haven't submitted a request for the clickers, but I have had conversations with our moderator, Mike Ford. I think there's general interest in discussing the potentiality, but I don't have a request before the town at this point.
It's under 20.
So my part on this, I've collected 153 signatures of people saying they'd like to have it. So I'm just following up representing 153 people that
Yeah,
I
but this
spoke.
is not the venue.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's a good start.
It's confusing to me because your website doesn't have a purpose, description, or objective, or goals. It doesn't list contacts, so I'm going, maybe it is the capital committee. I don't know, so that's why I came this morning.
It's a good way to start.
Okay, okay.
Okay?
All right.
I don't disagree.
All right, Very good.
Thanks for your time,
Okay, good.
and good luck with your puppy there.
He's a voter, remember?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Patrick.
Okay, we've approved that, and now is Sarah Eaton here? Come on down. We have Sarah Eaton, who is our IT manager, and we have Emily Mitchell, of course, who's the town clerk, who just approved $20,000.
A successful morning.
We're done.
And you were hoping for 4 hours.
You're here for the review of fiscal '25 to '29 on information technology and the town clerk to procure electronic records and content management software.
Correct. All right, so this would basically be digitizing all our records that the town has, that's in the town clerk, and then building, conservation, expanding out to those records over the coming fiscal years. So it's, the initial would be to procure electronic records and content management software for the digital archiving of our records. I've submitted a community compact IT grant, and they haven't announced the recipients for the towns yet, but it looks like that will possibly be at least getting 75% of what we had asked for on the grant. I had asked, I put in for the grant for 200,000, and it looks like possibly that we may get 150,000 for that. So that would be our initial thing for the first fiscal year to offset the costs to get us up and running for the software and a good bulk of scanning and digitizing the software.
So let me get this straight. The total cost is $600,000.
That is what I'm projecting.
Okay. Stay with me. We're out in the out years, so it's okay.
yeah.
You're approximately requesting 600, or the total cost can be 6, for 25 2. Okay? And that's through a grant?
Yeah,
Potentially.
potentially, yes.
And it's the,
It,
it's the, what's the grant from?
the grant is the Community Compact IT grant that's through the state.
Okay.
So if you get that grant, it would offset the 200,000 by 150?
Correct.
Okay.
And when do you hear?
Hopefully, we'll hear about mid-December, I think is when they plan to announce that.
And that grant would be applied to this first year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
In these numbers, I'm guessing there's a lot of content that you have to store as data. Is there storage included in this, or?
Yeah, in the yearly licensing fee, there's storage on the cloud.
It's in the cloud?
Yeah.
Okay. And the type of software that you're going to use, is it sort of,
We were looking with Laserfish.
And
which,
is that something
the
that
town
other-
already has general code, which,
Yeah. For some context, so the town does not currently have an electronic records management software system. So those types of things are very highly regulated. They have standards that must be met to allow for records, especially those that have longer retention periods, to be stored electronically. So a system like the one we're looking to acquire meets those standards. So for example, say the type of media that we have now or the type of files we use now changes. I mean, as we know, 15 years ago we were using floppy disks, and now we're cloud-based, and who knows what it'll be in 5 or 10 or 15 years from now. These types of systems guarantee that they will keep up with those advancements in technology, and that the records that you have stored on their system continue to remain accessible even as the technology advances. So that's the benefit of a system like that. A lot of the town's records right now, especially those that carry longer retention periods, have to be kept in physical hard copy, paper copy, because we don't have an electronic system that meets the appropriate standards. So if any of you have had the pleasure of going into our basement here at Town Hall, you'll see the boxes and boxes and boxes of records that we have there, and a lot of those are permanent records or records that carry longer retention periods. So I think the hope is that in acquiring the technology as part one, and part two in scanning and archiving those records, that we can transition to an electronic system and make them more accessible both to staff and the public. So this project over time would encapsulate both of those efforts.
Security?
Yes, they do. So we, there's a few vendors that provide this type of program. There's one that's kind of the most popular called Laserfiche.
Okay.
So Sarah and I did have a preliminary meeting with them, and there are certain state and federal compliance standards that they meet for security, and the vendors do have to meet those minimum security qualifications, both for maintaining the records, who has access to edit or delete them,
Right.
and protection from the public.
I have a question.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of questions.
Sure, after mine.
Oh.
I just said I have a question. Do you foresee any other departments using, is this townwide?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I think we both, envision it that way.
Yeah.
The library can share on that, or you have your own? But the library could share on that? Okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, in a general sense, either IT or the town clerk is requesting it, but the use is townwide.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir?
I just want to back up a bit, if I might, to try to understand a little more of this. So this request is not in the FY '25 list of
Yes, it
items?
is. Yeah,
Was it before?
Not the ones we reviewed before.
it's on today's.
Not this one,
No, it's on that.
this one here.
It says 200, it says 600 across. There's two items under I.
450, yeah,
200.
600 across, okay.
Right, and then you go to the first year, and it's
Okay, I
200,
see.
of
Okay,
which
yep.
150 is shooting for a grant. Got it?
Got it.
Okay.
And then to just try to understand, you're saying you're applying for a $200,000 grant from the state, is it, did you say?
Yes.
And the idea is that the $200,000 will buy the equipment that will then enable you to scan the material in the basement, and it's these out years that will be the cost of scanning that equipment, the detail down there?
Well, the first year would be to start with getting the equipment and the licensing,
And
the
that's what the
software.
grant is for.
Part of it, and then the other part of the grant is to get hopefully the bulk of the town clerk's office with all the vital records and stuff up onto it. And then in the outer fiscal years, start incorporating and doing the back scanning of other departments.
It'll definitely be a lengthy, multi-year beyond FY '29, I would say,
Okay.
process to continue to scan
these records.
records. And then as obviously new records are created, to incorporate those into the system as well.
And the likelihood of getting the $200,000 is what?
150.
80-20 or
150.
50-50 or?
150.
There is, I had gotten at the beginning of November from one of the people at the state asking if the town was to get 150 grand of the grant.
50.
Then would we still be going forward with the project? And so it's not 100% that we've gotten the grant yet, but it was just I guess they're like divvying up the money that the state has for the different towns that have applied for it. And it looks like we'll possibly be getting 150,000 out of the 200,000 that would be requested.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I just have one question. The out years, the $200,000 in the out years, that's for labor. Would that mean the town would have to hire another employee to do all that input? How does that work with once you get the equipment with all the copying and the stuff like that? Is that the $100,000 for the labor to do that work?
Yeah, that would be, as we talked with Laserfiche about it, they contract with a company that takes the boxes and in coordination with the town clerk, takes the boxes that would then need to be scanned
Okay.
and indexed and then put into the software system.
So it's almost done off-site, so to speak? you give them the boxes. Okay, great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Before you two ladies were here, I'd say 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, there was an issue about storing down the basement. And I know because we did a site visit to the community center, which has an empty basement that looks like 3 bowling alleys. It's just, they don't have the lanes, but the space. And the question was, the thought was, should you move the boxes from downstairs and store in the community center? And I'll ask the assistant town manager to put that as a question, I guess, to the town manager. Is there any thought of moving the boxes physically and have the work done there instead of downstairs?
I will bring that up. I know that the basement of the community center is not empty at this point. It's been used for storage and other things. So the space we may have had 5 or 6 years ago is not the space we currently have. But I will ask the question and get you an answer.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Anything else? Well, happy holiday.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.
Keep us abreast. Now, this, we are, so that you know, we are presenting the capital plan. The capital plan is the 5 years. The capital budget is next year, okay? 25. Monday to the Board of Selectmen and FinCom, so that you know that. The other thing is, if there's a change in any number before town meeting, or a change in, you got the grant, you didn't get the grant, whatever, let us know, and of course, let the town manager know, and town administrator. And that'll be reflected on a new statement, okay? And we're subject to change. We've had changes in the plan the night of town meeting. So we are going out months. So if you have any changes or you want to add anything or delete something, please let us know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Old business. Discussion regarding the revised fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2029, request for Brooks Free Library.
We have something here?
Give us a second.
No, it's in addition to facilities.
Did you bring paperwork?
I did. Do you
Yes.
all want to set?
We're going to see it.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we're going to see it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Oh, maybe I saw that somewhere. Oh, it's not on,
Okay, so the committee understands we're under facilities maintenance, and we're under the Brooks Free Library, which is the third up from the bottom of facilities maintenance, up there. Third one up. Got it?
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
Mark, you good?
I'm good.
Ladies?
Yep.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Ginny Hewitt, Library Director, and with me is Jeannie Wheeler. She's one of our library trustees and also Chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Good morning. So we have $40,000 in fiscal '27 for a space study and development of plans for an interior modification project, and $150,000 in fiscal '28 for construction work. So this project has been on the capital plan. It's on the current approved capital plan. And no changes are being sought. I think that when somewhere along the lines, I responded, with that information, but somewhere along the lines, when information was being compiled, it got left out. And so it's not a revised project, it's revised from your previous plans you've received for fiscal '25 to '29, but it's not a revision. We're not seeking any changes to what's on the current plan. The purpose of the project is to reconfigure the interior floor space of the library to accommodate changes since the last major renovation happened in 1998. Not modest changes within the existing footprint. And the goal is to accommodate changes in library services, patterns of use, and the needs and interests of community members, and to rectify some problems with infrastructure, electrical, and technology, and just to improve efficiency of operations as well.
Jenny, may I just?
Sure.
So that we are following with you. There's a request by Link Hooper on the facilities management. You're seeing in year
28.
740,000 and 28. That is 590,000 for air handling units and dehumidification capabilities. And Jenny's 150 on this paper, so it's 150 plus 590 gives you the 740 on the plan, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, and just so you know, the trustees originally submitted this article, or this project, I should say, and it was listed as a library project on the capital plan, and then a few years back, they started consolidating all the facilities maintenance under Sean, which makes a lot of sense. But this project isn't a traditional facilities project at this point, because it's not being driven by a structural problem with the building or a major system that needs to be replaced. It's being driven by the operational needs of the library. So once we've decided, what we need, then we'll work with a consultant and with Sean Libby, the facilities manager, of course, would assist with that and to develop the specifications and plans. And then it becomes a true facilities project. So I think that's maybe also where it got left off, in that I had made a comment to Joe, this is more of the library's project to defend at this point, because Sean's just going to tell you what we submitted, and we know the reasons for it. So I don't know, so anyway, I think that there may have been some confusion there about that. It's one of the few, I think, that is not, a facilities project not initiated by the facilities department.
Okay, but I think and we'll take it up with Joe, because his numbers show the 740.
Oh, they do? Yeah, so.
One
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry.
The issue that I'm concerned about is if there were a priority, is it the 140? Is it the 150 or the 590? Should we have to split it, which takes priority? And that's something that you, he, and Sean have to discuss, because in the plan it shows one number.
But there's two documents supporting that 740, and they're each individual projects, right? Shouldn't we look at it that way? I don't think they should be combined in that sense. They're just combined at the top of the worksheet, but they're two actual requests.
So my point is, perhaps, since that's an issue,
Right,
that we see both reflected in the 740.
as line items.
As line items.
Okay, just to be
That's-
clear.
Yeah.
Megan, can you take a note on that one, please?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to Jenny that
No, no.
Sean would be able to overtake her money.
No, that's why I'm saying if both
Yeah,
of
if they're
them-
separate, yeah.
She has you have two capital plan stuff in
So-
that year. One's real big, one's less big, and the issue is,
Similar to what we just did with
I think if
information
anything, from the library
technologies.
point of view, we'd like to move the HVAC project up.
okay.
I'm concerned about humidity in the building. But anyway, just throwing that out there. Sean disagrees, but I'm just saying.
You know more than he does on electricity.
He is the expert. But anyway, so I don't know how much you want me to go into this, since it's on the existing plan. The benefits, we're looking to improve what we would call the discoverability of materials, so that like things are together and visible to patrons, and consolidating collections and better locations, shelving display, we want to separate quiet spaces from more interactive areas, consolidate teens and tweens collections, so there's a young adult area. We need to replace furnishings. We need small group study space and video conferencing space. That's in very high demand, and most libraries have that capability, and we don't. And that's, I could talk about that more if you want, but since it's some years out, you may not want to. This isn't to replace booking rooms, say, at the community center. This is small, informal groups of people that want to get together for tutoring a student or distance education. And for the video conferencing, some of that is, there's a lot of people need not just the technology, not just the space, but the technology and the assistance, whether it's for job interviews or do you know that the trial courts now have a program where you can do remote court appearances? And so, we're just about to get into that, but again, we don't really have the space to allow it. And also you can take your driver's license learner's permit online. And again, people need help with that because these might not be regular technology users. And there can be no distractions or any movement in the background because the system will automatically kick you out, like as if disqualify you as if there's a person, you're cheating. So I see, like, that's a whole wave of things that are coming. And these are not for business purposes. That's a whole other video conferences, something like Cape Space would have. We're not looking to do that. This is just for our community members' needs. So that's a big need. And then another major thing is we have some inefficiently designed work areas for staff and service desks, and maybe we need to consolidate those and redesign that so that we can better, potentially if the circulation desk was more in the middle of the first floor, you wouldn't, maybe we don't need as many staff in the evening until we close. I don't know if that's the case, because now I have security concerns as well, which I didn't when we initially put this in. But times are changing. So anyway, these are all things that we would have a consultant and have a space needs study and look at that. How can we better accommodate needs? Lots changed in the world in the past 25 years. Things have changed in library resources and collections and how people use the library and what they need and expect. So,
Ginny, in terms of usage after COVID, how, I'm sure you've run numbers.
Yep. I sent you some statistics, and there's a whole sheet of those, and so I'm happy
Pick
to
a
say,
number.
like, we're back. No, this past year really came back. Our circulation actually was the highest we've had, number of items checked out. Use of electronic resources is really growing. One of the things, actually, talking about space, is the ability to have more private space to tutor other people on technology, to assist them, and to ask reference questions and show them how to use electronic resources. That just reminded me. So I think things are back. The programming is, definitely back. It was a crazy busy summer. We thought last summer, a year ago, we were back to normal, and we had no clue. We just had, it was very stressful this summer. I kind of had forgotten how it could be. And we had that many people attending programs, and it's almost overwhelming.
How
But
big
good.
How big is your staff?
My staff right now, we have about a 12 full-time equivalent. We have 25 people on the payroll. It varies a little bit because we have a lot of temporary substitutes. And so we have a very high number of part-time people that work very few hours. And that's something we're looking to change. It's really difficult to have people stay up to date. And the demographics are also changing so that workforce isn't there. People that want full-time jobs can find them somewhere in this economy and on the Cape with the lack of housing. And so a lot of our substitutes are people that have other interests, and so they're not necessarily working for the money. And so if they do a shift early in the week, they'll say no. So we've had a lot of unfilled shifts over the past year. So so workload, staffing-wise, has been tough. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ginny, all of these things are pretty much in an increasing indication, except why is the decline in the cards and all of that? Is there
Sure,
something happening
Jeannie was
there?
just, we were just talking, yeah, sure. We went to a new, well, I think that in any system, no matter what it is, I think you have a certain amount of inactive users, right? And in the library field, you can't, we're in a consortium with the CLAMS, network, all independent libraries, so we agree on certain rules together. And when you can't delete or purge, we would say, like an inactive record if the person owes over $25 or hasn't returned some materials. And that's a decision of other libraries that they were more sticklers on. So in the past few years, we've been able to get away from that, and especially with the pandemic, they agreed we could start. I think the CLAMS network was not doing the automatic purges yearly they were supposed to, and so there was a growing number of inactive patron records. And then we've been preparing for and migrated to a new automated system this past winter. So that we saw a large decline, and it's actually good that we're back up to where we were, because we deleted thousands of records, because we moved away, even the people that owed money, if it was over, 3 years ago, those records were deleted. So it was a big loss. So we've come back, which is good.
I think I'm probably in that group that got eliminated.
You are, yeah. Well, you can apply online, get a new one again. We just joined a new statewide program, CLAMS got included in that, and so it works for anywhere in the state system. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do these numbers include your electronic borrowing of books?
Yes.
They do?
They do,
Okay.
yep. They're included under items checked out.
Items like that.
Because they actually go for a loan period, Ann,
Right.
whereas
that's
other use of electronic resources is things on that column, like reading the Cape Cod Times online or the
That's
Wall
an
Street
in-
Journal.
that's a significant
So that's why
increase.
there's two different columns, items checked out and use of electronic resources.
Okay.
And then there's a total use of the collection. So, I was gonna say one other
That one's
thing.
growing significantly.
I was gonna say one other thing about the cardholder question too, Paul, is that you don't need a card to use many of our services, so people come and use the computers, or they bring their kids to story time, and they all don't necessarily have cards.
You're allowed in, Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
You too, Rich.
No, thank you.
Just one trivia question I might ask the librarian. Would you know what the number of books that were in the original collection of Henry Cobb Brooks?
Oh, no, but I have that, I have the book. I can get back to you on that.
I thought it was 4,000 that he originally started with.
Isn't that, I was gonna say three, but
And right
I-
now, it's
3,000.
117,
For books?
yeah, 117,000.
Yeah, that's all items in the collection, but yes.
But that is
Yep.
to reference all items that are physically in the library, is that correct?
And also, it also would be ebooks and things like that as well, yeah. It's not, I have separate state reports that list physical items, if you wanted to get that, but it just gets a little complicated. It doesn't, for something like Hoopla's a service we provide electronically, that you have access to a ton of ebooks and movies, streaming movies and things like that. But they don't go for a loan period like that, so they're counted as one resource. It gets a little complicated. But this isn't just physical items.
Okay, thanks.
So I did, by the way, I didn't give that to you in your packet, but we did have some data on other circulation of items in the collection. I wanted to say, since you're asking about books, here we go. Circulation of books has been increasing, which is like counter to what you would think, but I'm talking about physical physical books have increased the past year. Let me just see. I want to say 6%.
And is that the case in all the libraries here in town? The other libraries, I shouldn't say all.
Is there
but the other
circulation
libraries?
growing? I don't know. I would say generally no. Generally ours increases at a higher rate. But with our new system, they're still working on the data. Yeah, on different, how we access and get reports. So I can see our data, and it's much harder for me to see data from other libraries until we report every year to the state, and they will, will publish those reports, but that's not until the spring. So, so I would say, what I see of other libraries may be increasing some because they were closed a lot more during the pandemic, where we opened sooner and we provided more access with curbside pickup. We weren't very restrictive on that, where some libraries were, like one request per week, and we didn't have any limits like that, so.
Okay.
And do you foresee, other than what Sean has put in that year and your request that year, anything else physically on the building? Are you good? Is your lighting okay? All that stuff.
Hopefully, we're good.
You're good?
I mean, things can always happen, you know, it's an old building.
What's the age of the building?
1880, the main Brooks block was built, and then actually Cape Cod 5 started in what's now our children's room, 1855. That's on the corner of Bank Street, yeah. And then a third, the eastern third, is an addition from 1998.
Okay,
So
1855.
it's the oldest part, yeah.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah, let me ask one other question.
Surely.
The 740,000 out 4 years or what, is it practical that the money would be spent in that year? Or is there any justification for spreading out that money over a period of fiscal years? Just in terms of the impact it makes in 1 year, it seems hard for me to believe that the $750,000 would be limited to a fiscal year.
Okay, well,
For the
well,
work that's being-
590 of it is the HVAC work, so that's a different project. So our part is 150,000 for the facility.
No, I understand, but you get labeled as 750,000, and I guess I'm just wondering whether there's an advantage politically of not putting that all in 1 year.
Well, this is where I was advocating for the HVAC project to move up. If you're considering anything, do that. I'm concerned about the amount of humidity. We talked about it last year. I didn't bring data and stuff with me.
One of the
but-
things that we have to look at is, it's rather misleading to make it 740, and there are two major requests.
Right.
That are completely, they don't jive together. None, one
Right.
doesn't happen if the other. What I'd like to see is that we re-examine the requests. There are two, one from you, one from Sean. One falls under facilities management. And again, I don't know definition. Does the 150 fall into facilities management? Actually, there's two requests, which makes it easier to understand. Should you have, again, Paul, you're right. Should you have to break it up, put one forward? And what Ginny said is bring it back, maybe a year forward, backwards. So that's something that we'll.
Could it,
To that point,
I worry, we have an aging chiller, and I worry about that, and.
Because, I'm
Be-
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with the aging chiller, you have to deal more and more with the humidity. And if your humidity is higher and higher, what is that going to do to the books and the rest of the things within the library? And then that's going to cost the town a lot more money.
Yep.
Yeah, when you have a mold bloom, a mold bloom in the collection is hugely,
Go ahead, Ann.
do we have a dollar value on the worth of the collection? Because it's the, what is the HVAC protecting? Because that would also put it in
We-
some perspective.
we do, I can't remember, it. When we were applying for a generator, which this committee not only supported but moved up, thank you very much, that was one of the reasons. I don't have it on me, but I can email that to you.
We have an
It's a lot
historic,
to
have an
digest.
historic building at 1855. It's got a collection worth X. There's a $590,000 HVAC project to protect a collection that's worth Y. You know, that would be a good way to say it, and then make the case to move it forward. If you're protecting $3 or $4 million worth of something or whatever that is.
Oh, it is, it's,
Beyond that, you have a building that has high usage.
Very high use.
And the usage really spurts up during the summer, if I go back historically with you. And that people have to be comfortable in that building, so, and also protecting assets within the building.
Right.
So you're protecting the asset of the building and within the building.
Right, so the building's worth X, the collection's worth Y, you know, it has this usage.
Go ahead,
Bring
Jen.
it forward 2 years.
As well as the health of the staff working
Exactly,
there.
mold.
With, if you get a
So-
mold issue.
one thing if I could say, the generator means we have air conditioning when power's out generally, so that's good. But the normal level of humidity in the building is extremely high all the time. And again, I didn't bring data because I didn't think it was being looked at. But when we talked about it last year, I want to say it was over 65, 70% all the time, most of the time. We have three, we're in a program where we have three, what do they call them? Recording hydrometers in different areas of the building. So we have that data.
So it's the business case of protecting the collection, the building, which would move it up in terms of an essential rather than a nice to have.
But
So
before Sean
can I
gets-
make a suggestion to look at this just maybe another way, and Melissa, this would go to Joe. If you're looking at the bottom line of the capital plan, in 2028, when the humidifier is there for the 590, we're going to spend almost $16 million in capital. But in 2026, our number is 7 million. So does it make sense to move it up in a year where we're not at, you know, this year we're at 11 million, then we're at 7 million, then we're at 19, almost 20 million, we're at 16 million. Does it make sense to move it into a year where we're not so cost heavy?
Why don't we leave that as an open item for our
Right.
next meeting when Joe is, we have your input.
Can I, well, before I get the facilities manager very angry at me, who I love and am so thankful to have.
You used to be the facilities manager.
I did, and it's so nice not to have that, that worry and that concern. He may have planned this in his workload a certain way, so regardless of the
get it.
whole total of the plan, how that fits with his, I don't know what other projects he has in the early years, whether he could accommodate both.
Don't worry about it, Ginny. What,
The-
our
Just saying.
concern as a committee is to ask the question, is there any way to move it forward or back? And the issue of the asset of the building and the assets within the building and the comfort and having so many people, that's why I asked about your usage. You need it. I mean, people are not gonna walk in that building if you don't have air conditioning, and if your humidity is sky high, you know. So it's just an open issue for the committee to address with Joe, with our town manager, town administrator, to make sure that we address it and get our questions. Yeah, we'll handle it. I don't need to have Ginny.
Yeah, and just, you know,
Ginny, this is not a-
2026 from facilities is
It's
only
not a
350,000,
political
so
football.
it's not a big
You
year.
know, we're not gonna
No.
put you against another department head.
Right.
It's a question that we're asking and that we need an answer, and we want to see how it benefits the town. So let's just not even go there any further, okay?
Yep.
That'll satisfy the
Yeah, no,
committee?
yeah, just let's look at
Okay.
it.
Anything else?
I just wanted to commend the librarian for the thoroughness of, we get these reports in, people asking for $6 million, and they have one sentence, needs upgrade, or something like that. So the content here is
You're
most
new.
appreciated.
You're new. Ginny is one of the best
Yeah.
department heads that come in and this, and
Well, she needs to be commended.
Thank you.
discuss with she, and I'm not gonna, there are other department heads that we also appreciate the time and effort they put in, and there are other town department heads who, it says one line, I'll put one line. But we always appreciate, and of course, having the trustees here in support of them, it's a benefit for all of us. It's really good.
All right.
Is that it?
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Happy holiday.
To you all as well. Thank you.
I'll be in the library soon. Save me a seat. That's dry. Okay. So we've addressed old business A. We are now on old business B, and that's going to be Kathleen. Who is our finance director, and we're going to be discussing discussion regarding funding sources for the 25 projects. Am I correct?
I will give it an attempt. Just for the record, Kathleen Barrett, Finance Director. So for FY '25, normally at this time of the year, we would have an amount that's it's called free cash. Now, free cash is not free. So just to kind of put that disclaimer out there and to put a little bit of context for every department, that's my goal this year. Just a very quick description of what it is. So free cash is any type of remaining balances that it's either exceeded our revenue forecasts or were expenditures, budgets that were not fully expended. So it's balances that are certified by the state, which are then funds available to be used in the fiscal year. It expires every year, so it's not like a pile of money that sits year after year that you can spend at your leisure. So the goal is usually to only use free cash for special type of capital projects, things that would be on this plan. So because of staffing issues and various other things that have come up, we do not have certified free cash currently. That figure has not been, we don't have it reviewed by the state yet. We anticipate it would be in probably February or March. So it's much later than we normally would, and it does have an impact insofar as looking at funding sources for FY '25's capital plan. We would have it well before the town meeting, so we wouldn't be hindered in that way where we couldn't move forward with the capital plan. So my preliminary, and because we don't have a dollar figure, it does kind of limit, what we can say, how the funds would be used and which projects would be funded in which mechanism. I would anticipate that, hopefully if all things go well, it was a good year for revenue, but it would probably, in looking at things, it would be based on the projects anywhere between $3.5 to $4 million being used in free cash for FY '25's capital. I have talked with the golf department about their project that's listed here, the irrigation system, and something like that would probably be a borrowing. And there are funds that within the golf department that would be able to pay that debt. Additionally, there is it would depend on timing. We're going to be working with our financial advisors, who are the ones who help us with borrowings, to see what is the most economical use. Because of higher borrowing costs now, it requires a great deal of planning. And you would want to, instead of borrowing, for individual projects incrementally, you would try to consolidate them so you only have the expenditures once. So it would really depend on what we think the free cash amount would be, but probably at least $1 million in borrowing for general fund.
For the whole
water-
plan, Kathleen?
I'm sorry?
For this whole 11 million, you would, in addition to the golf, you would do another million of borrowing?
Yeah, and it really, it depends on some of the projects, the timing, and in looking at our debt schedule, we do have more capacity as some debt gets paid down. We have a decrease of debt in the exempt debt that is decreasing by about 700,000 from FY '24 to FY '25. So that we're trying to keep it at a more steady level funding. But that is something that we're gonna talk more with our financial advisors, Hilltop. In addition, for the water department, I'm gonna be working with them, but they have their own funding sources for their projects, of which their retained earnings would pay either for the projects directly, or they would make the payments in their own borrowings. So the general fund is, the biggest concern, because that's tax-driven, whereas if there's other funding sources, it makes things a little easier to manage.
Can I just ask you to go back one second? For the water department, they would use the retained earnings and, what did you say there?
They'd either pay it outright, for the smaller projects like vehicle replacements, things like that. But for painting the tank, that's $1,750,000.
Right.
They don't have enough retained earnings for that, but they would be able to have year-over-year capacity to make debt payments for that. So that would be like a borrowing.
So the
as well.
town would issue debt and they would pay it back through their, instead of going retained earnings, it would go to pay the debt.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Question. I may be wrong, but I have this figure in my head that last year free cash was somewhere around 7 million.
It
Yes.
was. We are not, I certainly do not want to overshoot the number. We're gonna be much more conservative. And then, because of course budgets increase, and revenue, as we're still kind of evolving from COVID, there's still, it's not increasing exponentially like it was. So it's flatter and there's more expenses against it. So my forecast, it's probably going to be less, but I don't know exactly how much less.
So it could be half of what it was last year.
I wouldn't even want to speculate just
Okay.
because, but I certainly don't think that we're going to be hitting that dollar amount again. I don't think it's going to be in the $7 million range. So to be more conservative, and there's more flexibility, if in fact we do have more free cash than I would anticipate, it gives you more flexibility for some of the larger projects.
And the gap is really $1 million, is what I heard you say, for additional funding, is that correct?
You
Maybe.
could, it depends, like the Brooks Academy could either be free cash or borrowing, it just really depends. We also, sometimes debt looks like a scary thing, but it is advantageous in that if we have exempt debt, it helps with our levy and it keeps our levy at steady.
Steady.
And that's
How,
what really.
how much debt do we have outstanding today,
Currently outstanding?
roughly?
I don't know. It's probably, gosh, I had the schedule. Trying to remember. It's at least 40 million or more. It's considerable. Our total debt payment for FY '24 is $4,359,943.
$4 million.
FY '25 will be $3,732,085, of which is paid by the general fund, the golf revolving, and water.
And that's our debt servicing number?
Yes.
Those are three.
There's a lot of ambiguity in what you can say in terms of a fixed number, and I buy that, okay? I'm assuming you know, Monday night, there is a meeting between the Board of Selectmen, the FinCom, and us. And I'm sure somebody, I shouldn't say I'm sure, don't ask the question. Someone probably will ask you the same questions we're asking you now. We again, like I told the library, we are flexible enough. Normally, we get to a point other years, and nobody's here to agree with me because they weren't here in years past, but we would know by this time early December what projects were being funded and how. Make it real simple. That's the way it was. And by January, we were 99% finished. That's not going to be the way it's going to be
It will
for
not.
us. So I suggest we work with you, Joe, and the departments to find out where are we, how are we, and what are we going to do. We have plenty of time till town meeting.
Exactly.
The charter says we must do A, B, and C, and we're doing, I'm picking it as B, next Monday night by sharing the information of the capital request. If they ask, how are you going to fund it, they're going to have to accept your answer and Joe's answer with the flexibility to say, we'll let you know in a month or so, 8 weeks, we will know what's been certified by the state, what we can use and so forth. We're okay with that. You see our requests, you guys know how to fund it, you know, it all falls, all these requests fall in the parameters of how do you fund it, if you can fund it. So it's not a guarantee that what we see in front of us is in fact the plan or the budget. So we don't want to put the onus on you, but when you get the information and Joe gets the information and you share it, you guys are the financial experts to turn around to us and say, it's going to be, these are the opportunities and these are the potential funding capabilities. The beginning of the town meeting brochure, it tells you how funding happens and where the funding comes from. I don't think it's been on everybody's mind at town meeting that, you know, this has to go, this has to go, this has to go. So we are on you guys for your expertise to get us information, much like we look to Sean to give us technical information, Link to give us information, library to give, so the finance has to let us know too. Yes.
So I may feel a little differently than you do, Rich. I'm just going to say, I've been advocating for the town to share more information about their debt position, what the asset debt servicing is. I think it's incredibly important as we start to go through the water, wastewater years where we're going to be taking on more debt, and just being aware of it. And I feel like it's not as transparent as maybe we need to be as a town with debt. And I've asked to have some debt schedules put on the warrant this year, and I was told that would probably happen, or we would see more of that. I mean, it is at least the outstanding debt is available in the annual report, but that's not where we're making decisions as a town about how we're going to do it. And this is, at least for me, my first year, where we're going to actually be raising more debt for the capital items than we have in previous years, because we have been lucky enough to have a lot of free cash, right? So I would hate to see this go to the, to the line where we're putting this all, we don't know what it is until right before it gets in the warrant. I think it would be helpful, and I know we don't get to choose, I get that. But I think as people who are making decisions about, you're asking us to vote on a capital plan, we should understand how things are paid for. And I think the debt, for me, is one of those things that's just not clear. And I've asked for both the Finance Committee and the Capital Outlay Committee to be able to have sort of a debt 101 kind of a lesson. So we understand how the town raises debt, how they look at it, how healthy are we, what's the credit rating, and I'm a debt person, so, God forbid, I just feel like as we're making decisions about a plan, understanding how we're going to pay for it is really an important component.
It's crucial. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And, you know, due to numerous reasons, I don't think there was as much information available about debt in years past. And now that is something that I've been working on.
And I appreciate that, yeah.
Thank you. It's been there is 48 off debt separate schedules.
I read debt prospectuses, so if you need help, let me know.
Yeah.
I did that for a
Well,
living.
Yeah, so we have to track 48 different debt schedules with each individual payment.
Right.
So in doing, with different categories and funding sources. So that took a great deal of time to grapple with. I finally have been able to get it, because you're right, you can't make good decisions if you don't know if you can afford to pay it back.
Right, and we're just gonna get into a time where,
Right.
and I'm not at all, I think people out there have said that, you know, we have a debt issue. We don't have a debt issue. I did my own little
No.
analysis, and our asset servicing numbers are good, and we have not issued a lot of debt, actually. Compared to other towns on the Cape, we're doing great. But there's gonna come a time where we're gonna have to really think about it when we get into the
Yeah.
guts of the wastewater.
And there are like scheduling issues, you know, and when you look, you're like, okay, well, you know, this drops off in, you know, year 5. Okay, well, then let's like schedule it for that. And we work with our financial advisors to be like, you know, can you delay this 6 months? You know, can our first payment start in X date where another one falls off? So there is a great deal of planning, and they are a wonderful resource. We're very lucky to have, you know, a good company that we work for. So that helps us in our process as well. But there is a great deal of thought that's got to go into this. And, you know, kind of looking through, I was making a list of, you know, what debts when, because you want to, you know, be, you know, very careful insofar as you don't want to just be like, oh, I need $1 million here and $1 million there, I'll borrow. You know, there's a lot of costs involved because it's municipal debt. There's a great deal involved. It's not like you just go out and just borrow money.
There was a time when wastewater first came to us as an expense for the town, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Debt analysis was part of the presentation that we got, and it was done, it was rudimentary because we were estimating, you know, what's it gonna cost, and set up the debt schedule, and what falls off, what's added on, and so forth. But more importantly, at that time, the residents of Harwich really wanted to know, how does it affect my tax bill? And what we had to do is work with the finance director to actually say, if we spent $100 million and we're paying X amount, what's the tax impact on a $400,000 house, okay? So we really went deeply for them. The issue we have now is this time delay. I'm not blaming, I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a time delay.
Right.
And I would suggest, you're talking about debt schedule or debt 101.
Right.
Perhaps we're using financial advisors. They're getting paid to give us information. It'd be a perfect opportunity to call the Finance Committee, FinCom, and Capital Outlay to one evening of Debt 101.
Right.
And don't put the onus on you. Let them come in and speak broadly on what municipal finance means to us. And I think they would be happy to do that. We just have to pick the right time. Once the number is real and we need more information, you know, I'd like to offer that to one of your things to do is, you know, it's sort of unfair to Kathleen to hit her with all this stuff.
And I'm not doing
No,
that.
no, I don't know.
I'm
These
saying.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
are very
And
valid questions.
if we did that after town meeting, because that was easier in timing, I'm fine with that too.
I
I'm
mean,
not-
I think like funding
I
sources
think
are
we have-
crucial. We need to know how we're gonna pay for this.
I've
These are
always
great
defined the
plans.
time after we present it next week and into January.
Everything
From
changes.
January to May, town meeting is a hiatus.
Right.
And it's a perfect opportunity for us to catch up on stuff we don't know.
Well, that's the very reason last time that I asked Joe, and I mean, I know we talked on and on, but I don't think I got the answer I wanted, which was, I mean, we're operating in the blind here, and we should know if we add
Can we spend that?
$100,000, $3 million, whatever it is, what it's gonna impact that $400,000 house owner's
Right,
tax
and
bill.
that's what I'm saying. This is the first year that we don't know what we have to spend and how we can spend it. This is the first year, okay? Last year, like Kathleen said, you had $7 million, and you knew you had it early,
Yeah.
okay? So, working with the finance department, the town administrator, the assistant town administrator, our committee, FinCom, we're all in the same boat.
Right.
We need to know. And now that we never had, I don't want to say that, but I don't remember a lot of things, but I don't remember having financial consultants dealing with us on a daily basis. Like you may have a question that you can make a call to our consultants or our advisors, as you say. I suggest that we work on that. We know what the dollar value of the requests are. The next step for us to approve, and this is something that I'm sure is going to come up Monday night, is we don't know how much we can spend
Right.
and how we can spend it and how we finance it. And we can't vote. Now, all the requests are acceptable if we have the money,
Right,
bottom line.
right.
The question is like,
Do we?
you know, you buy a new refrigerator, do you pay cash for it? Or, really, do you pay cash, put it on credit, or trade in the old one and whatever?
Right, right, right.
A car, same issues. So I think we have done a good job on getting to where we are and understanding the plan, how it works, how it's to be financed, but these are open issues that I don't feel comfortable with you approving each one. If we don't know, we can buy it.
Yeah, I would question whether we know how to finance it. That's the issue.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're sticking up for you. I mean, we're working with you.
Well, there are definitely, these are not like, oh, you know, we're wildly unaware of how much, you know, we can spend. It's a matter of whether or not something gets paid for free, with free cash, or we borrow the money. It's not so much of like, oh, you know,
No, but
sorry, your valid program, you know, oh, did you need an ambulance? I'm sorry, you can't have one of those.
Right,
Like, that is not like,
but
kind of.
when we vote the requests historically, when we vote the requests, we sort of know how it's going to be funded. So we don't want to say, yeah, it's good, let's do it, but we don't know how it's going to be done. That's the caveat.
So
there.
can we vote it subject to?
Yeah, they're all
financing,
subject to.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all believe those are good projects. There's no discussion, I don't think. Maybe there are some projects that people are
Yeah,
not
the
happy with, but-
caveat is it's fundable,
Right, right, right.
you know. You
Yeah, there
agree?
are funding mechanisms, it's just which one we're going to use.
Right.
Right, right.
But it's not like we'll never know, it's, you know.
Yeah.
What do you got, Paul?
I was just curious, this paper that the finance director was referring to there, that table, we don't have that table, do we?
Which
Is that one of the, well, she was reading certain figures off.
It's this sheet. She was just.
No, this is a debt schedule that
Oh.
that has just been completed, so,
I mean, is that available, something to?
it's something that I can put together for you. It's more for our financial reporting for, the tax rate, it was, and the biggest thing, and it's a calculation of the levy.
Might be
But it
helpful.
also does give me an idea, but until I can, like, I have to do just a little bit more research on to make sure, because there are some things that had come up, especially with wastewater, to make sure that we, it's a little, and I'm working with the water department on
Okay.
some of their issues, because their plan and their budget. But just to make sure and to double check, just because I got everything to balance, I'm gonna go back and check with Hilltop, just to make sure.
Yeah.
So let's get to this, the discussion of vote items, because this is something, and I agree with you that they're all, we can look at the request, the dollar value in 25, vote yea or nay, all with the caveat, depending on the funding. So why don't we just do one by one? We'll do the facilities maintenance. It's the community center, 295,000 in 25 and 653,000 in 27. Now, we've had all these presented to us, and all those in favor?
I have a quick question. I thought we were gonna vote on 25 and then do the things after that.
That is 25.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
We're doing 25 one by one.
Okay, so
Okay.
295 is what we're.
95.
Yeah,
95
yeah.
is what we just did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Sisson Road Safety Complex, 52,000. In favor?
Aye.
How about just refreshing on some of these things? 52,000 is for the slate roof, or is it for
No.
the?
No, that's
Is
the,
it for
that's
the
the
preliminary work ahead of the roof?
this is at the police and fire station. The 52,000 is the brick entrance.
Oh, that's 204, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So that's the.
that's right,
52.
okay, please, I'm sorry, yeah, go
No,
ahead.
you tell us what it is.
Well, I
You
know what
remember.
it is, yeah.
Okay. The middle school, the old middle school, 52,000 in 25. Am I right? No.
No, that's 180.
650,000,
That's the roof.
the roof. In favor?
So now we're on the 650?
Yes.
We're going down, yes.
Well, aren't there issues with that?
The dollar value in the presentation, we're saying it's fine. I mean, the issue of whether it should be funded is, are we in favor of being funded? You can vote no.
It's the roof.
Well, I thought there were questions about whether with the changeover from the style of repair, that there would be savings realized from the original bid. Is that incorrect?
Sean didn't say there would be savings. That was an item that Mark brought up, but Sean didn't necessarily agree with that, right?
That's true.
I wasn't really aware that he had switched from slate to shingle, and there's a cost factor, a cost difference of at least 2 to 3 times. In other words, if that was figured as a slate roof, if you,
He did not say that as a slate
Okay.
roof. That was the cost for the architecturally designed shingles and the
And the
repair and
gutters.
the underlayment and everything else. So that was, he went over that with us in detail. So it isn't the cost of a slate roof.
It's
the
to
cost of an
remove the
asphalt.
slate roof and
It's to
replace
remove
it
it.
with an asphalt shingles and replace the gutters.
but the previous year, it was written up as to replace a slate roof with a slate roof.
That's previous year.
That's
Previous
so
year.
that's
That's
the-
So,
last
in
year.
other words, from last year, the 650 didn't change, and that would be my,
I just want to,
but
can
we
I,
went- Okay.
let's just go back and look. Facilities. Just make sure we're saying the right thing. It just says remove and replace the slate roof and gutters on a pitched roof section. It doesn't say that it's removing and replacing. It doesn't say what it's replacing the slate roof with last year. It just says to remove and replace. So this year, he's saying that the way that he quoted that was to remove and replace it with asphalt. It doesn't mean that he didn't say that last year, he just didn't put it in the description. That's the way I would interpret it. Sorry. And I know Sean's
And
not here
again,
to
if
speak for
these are
himself.
questions, I mean, these are questions that I think you've taken up with Joe and you've taken up with Sean, and we are where we are.
Yep.
Okay, so we're in a voting situation. The next one would be,
Did we
But
vote
we
on
didn't
that
vote
one?
on that one yet.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. That's the,
Did you vote?
It's the roof.
But Paul didn't vote.
so we'll say 3, 1, 1. And I'm looking at 25, because that's the
Right.
one.
Right.
Would be Brooks Academy.
1.1 million 60.
I'm looking at the, okay, Brooks Academy, it's for compiling projects that were previously stretched out across 24 to 27 will save costs associated with architect, OPM, and inflation in addition to finalizing the restoration. Supplemental CPC, this is CPC funds.
CPC.
Supplemental to the CPC funds.
In addition to.
Okay. And repair, restore cupola, roof, gutters, columns, and basement bulkhead. 1.16. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we go down to the fire department.
Oh, wait a minute, you
No,
didn't do the harbor.
Didn't do the harbor.
200,000 for the generator.
I'm just going on the requests.
Oh, well, we're working off the made sheet, Rich, so maybe that's the
Yeah.
difference.
Well, I'm looking at the request because she supposedly put these in the order.
It's the last one under DPW.
Last one under DPW.
Under facilities, sorry.
Okay,
under
give me,
facilities.
what does it say?
It's, install a whole building generator for the new building at, and we know it's at Saquatucket, right? The generator would enable normal operations and prevent property damage during a power outage. It's 200,000.
Okay,
That's the one where we did that off-site.
There's a retained.
Yes.
70.
Question I had was, to further understand how this works with this $70,000 that
left
the
over
harbor
that
master,
that said that he had.
is that in a
Do you know,
200 include that, or is it
We went to-
270 of which we're
we
appropriating?
went to the
200
harbor
more?
master and he had said he has 70,000 left over from something.
He does. There's $70,000 left over from the building construction.
Okay,
It's still in that article
Okay.
balance. I don't believe this 200,000
includes the 70.
includes that. I think
Okay. So
it's
it's a
separate.
separate 200,000 request.
So the generator is 70 plus 200? If it doesn't include it,
I don't know if he's gonna, he says he has 70 left. I don't know if he's using it for the generator, for the bulkhead, or for whatever. Don't know. He
But he's
didn't-
put in a separate request for the 200,000.
200,000 is for the generator.
Right.
So
That's
let's,
the
we're
request.
voting on that.
But we're voting to commit $200,000 to that project. And if we need 130, why don't we say 130?
You can't do that. You have to, if it's a balance remaining in an article, it has to be voted to reappropriate it. So it's best to just take the project as it is and then determine funding sources afterwards. Regardless of the
can't move
funding
the money.
source, it's $200,000.
One way or another, 70,000 is gonna come back from the town unless he has some additional work to do with the construction of the
Right.
building,
Yeah,
right? Is that the right way to say it?
yeah. I mean, we just don't know the full scale of the project. You hate to use funds that you don't know that are available or
Right.
not.
So it goes back to our funding source discussion. So the best advice is to vote on the 200,000, and then this will all sort out based on the funding
Exactly.
sourcing.
You had to vote on the merit of the project.
The merit of the project
Without taking
first.
into consideration the funding sources.
Because we've had that discussion about the funding
The
sources.
70 may not have the opportunity to be used.
But, okay, then let me ask the question this way. Let's assume he decides he wants to put a little addition on the back. It's gonna cost $60,000. He says, that's okay, I can do it, I've got $70,000 here in my cash.
That's something that would be discussed.
That's
That
possible.
would not solely be at his discretion. So I wouldn't want to speculate on what another department head might do with funds that are available from a capital project. I think it's safe to say that it's best to just take it at the merit, and we will discuss what's necessary over there insofar as the building and the proposed generator.
Okay, but it just seems to me that when he mentioned initially that when they put the building together, there was an attempt at that point to have a generator installed, and for whatever reason, the cash wasn't available, or the system was considered out of date, or whatever, it never got put in. But as a result, $70,000 was left over and is available. And my sense is that if we're trying to be observant on capital outlay, and he's got $70,000 left over from that project, which may have included even a generator that never got put in initially, that it sort of requires this committee to say, if it's a $200,000 generator, then we'll appropriate $130,000 in additional money and ask you to apply the $70,000 from the account.
Okay, the request is for 200,000 for the generator. He has 70,000 extra from something else. Kathleen, can you
Is
just,
that an extra? I have no idea.
It's not extra.
I have no idea
Okay.
what the constraints are on that money, so I don't feel comfortable discussing it.
okay.
Thought it was
I
just
wasn't
the-
going to have you discuss it now.
I just thought it was
We
just
need it researched.
the project.
We're going to vote on it.
Well, when we actually can come up with all the various funding sources, that's probably the best point in time to put it all
See where
together.
the 70 is. If it came from another article, you're 100% right. You can't use it on this.
Right.
Unless it's reappropriated through an article.
Right.
Right.
So,
It could be part of.
I mean, I don't want to waste an hour on this. It's 200,000. That's the request. That's what he's asking for. All those in favor? Aye.
Nay.
I'll vote against it.
Okay. It's 3-2.
It's in that form. I'm not opposed to having a generator on the property.
We're
I
just
think
voting
that's
on the
defensible.
200,000.
But this will happen to us on golf and other things too. It's the same thing. Who's got money in what pocket where?
Yeah.
We usually have the schedule of how all these things are gonna be paid for. We aren't able to do that this year.
But I also think you don't have to worry about the 70,000 just being spent willy-nilly. That's not gonna happen. The town is gonna make a decision about whether there's additional work on the building that would be covered under that warrant, and if not, they'll figure out how to get it back into the general fund. It's not like that money just
Doesn't disappear.
goes somewhere. You know, it has to be spent based on how, whatever that warrant was a few years ago, says it can be spent. If it can be spent for this, then they'll make that consideration.
So our vote is about whether they need a generator.
I agree they need a generator.
There we go. Then your vote is nay or aye.
3-2.
I don't know whether we're voting they need a generator or
We're voting on
to spend
$200,000.
$200,000.
Voting on
We're
the
voting,
merit
should they spend
project.
$200,000? Whether it's getting donations of $5 a head, I don't really care. Whether it's a straight $200,000 from the town, or is it 130 plus 70? We don't know what the funding source is and how it's to be funded. I think when he said he has 70,000 left, that's what you jumped on, okay?
Right.
All we're looking at is 200,000, whether it's with 70 or no 70, does the building need it? And the answer we're saying is yes. You say no,
Okay, I'll change my vote to yes.
you're a good guy.
It's a revenue-producing operation, the harbor, too.
Well, fortunately, he was on the bus with us. Okay,
Rich, you skipped Channel 18 there, the Harwich Channel, it's the first line.
oh,
You might as well just, so we don't skip that one.
At the 47,863.
oh, that doesn't even, oh. Channel 8, one's 47, well, it's a total of 180. And the first year is 47, even though it's not up to 50.
Right,
So
it's below our even.
top, very,
Very top
very
line.
top, you don't even
Oh, the
see
top.
it.
Yeah, we
Equipment
almost went right
upgrades,
by
yeah.
it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, got rid of that one quickly. Ambulances, in '25, 520,000. There are available revenue sources or grants other than municipal funds is a question, and that's what they're looking at, and the fire department does this every year. And it's to replace, does it on every other year, intended to
Have a
replace the
spare.
ambulance has been in service for 8 years. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we're talking about vehicles, 90,000. And I don't know where the hell that one is.
I think that's for the fire inspector's car. He has a 2012 Ford Explorer now.
Okay, we're looking at, 90,000.
Of 200 and,
Fire
2006
inspector, yeah.
Ford Explorer used by the fire inspector,
That's
$90,000.
90,000 to replace that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we go to the golf, 2.5 million.
And this is the funding source discussion as well, because there's retained earnings in the golf account. Is that correct?
Yes. The question is, are there available revenue sources or grants? Project costs will be funded by the Golf Improvement Fund. That's a good thing.
Right, and do we know how much is in that fund
No.
right now, Kathleen, or no?
No.
Okay.
So it's replace heads, wiring, not pipe, for the golf irrigation system.
500,000 in the golf improvement fund is
Thank
what?
you.
Okay.
As a- yeah.
So it's 2.5 million. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Now we'll go down to Harbor Master. And in '25, he needs 40,000.
Which is below our 50
But he has something out in,
in the out year.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
it's
engineering.
replacing the existing boat ramp that is in poor condition.
Wait a minute.
It's the engineering for?
That's the second one.
Yeah, the 40,000 is the engineering
Engineering
for the
work.
project that will be done in '27.
Right.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Harwich Elementary School. 120. Various capital projects related solely to the elementary school. Additional details will be provided by the Monomoy District and Administration Team. This is to replace rooftop mechanical units.
Right,
Right.
And it's the first year, 120.
it's 2 units, he said.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then we hear of investment technology, and we heard from them today. And it's overall cost of $1 million, and they need $250 the first year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then they're looking for a grant for electronic records content management, and that, if I'm not mistaken, is
150.
150 and 50 on us, but the request is for 200. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The cruisers for the police force. $219, and that's the first year to replace all the cruisers. And it's a rolling stock, so this used to be an expense item, it is now capital expenditure.
It's- Yeah, 3 marked police cruisers, it says.
Three. Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Equipment replacement, 51,000. And this is
This is
tasers. Total cost is gonna be 180 something maybe, yeah, 108. I'm sorry,
Is it 175?
175, of
Yep.
which 51 is this year. In favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public Works.
Did we do that? Oh, we
No,
don't
those
have
are
to do
further
that,
out.
Sorry, thank you. Road.
1.5 million on 7.8 million. And this is for purpose of 5-year road maintenance plan to avoid costly reconstruction. There's 142 miles of public roads. The main focus of the plan is installing the drainage systems in coordination with the sewer project. So it's 1.5. All those in favor?
Aye.
I have
Aye.
a question.
Surely.
Has the issue ever been raised about the requirement and the associated costs with the police protection at the sites of the improvements in terms of paying 8 hours to have somebody out on the street?
Part of the contract, yeah.
It's part of the contract, but is there any requirement that actually
State
be done?
requires, yes.
State does.
Yeah, we went through that with Joe.
Okay.
Okay?
And that wouldn't be part of the capital plan anyway.
No, that's
Right.
expense
It would be
item.
operating.
Expense.
Well, but
Right.
there's $200,000 in the capital plan.
Right, but that's labor costs, not a capital expense. Even though it's 200,000,
You're
it's
not
not
buying it.
capital.
It's not part of this plan?
No?
We're not buying it. It's not a physical asset.
That you can, that you can depreciate over time.
You guys are good.
I got that MBA for one reason, right?
Me too.
Me too.
Right? Well, you should know the financial statements, come on.
I
Get
went
with it.
into marketing, forget. I was a happy
Took
boy.
the easy way out.
Yeah.
Punishing. Okay, 1.5, did we do that?
We're on
Did we vote
No,
on 1.5?
didn't have a vote on the 1.5.
So we need
Can
to
I have a
vote.
vote on the 1.5? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now we're looking at 765, and that's the first year vehicle replacement plan for Link. Replacement of vehicles, and, now he does a fine job on, I'm gonna say, the debt, in other words, the aging,
The aging.
and how old and what year was it procured and stuff. So we need 765 for his vehicles and equipment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, the water department, the way I've always looked at it, they're self-funding, and I think that we're looking at,
It's a wash.
you know, we're just saying, yeah, go ahead. Then they do a fine job in terms of their revenue stream and their expenses and their capital expenses. Okay, so for the first year, vehicle replacements, 270,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Equipment replacement, 232. And that's, purchase a loader. They always wanted one, so that's a good price, 232. So we're purchasing a loader, 232. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well rehabilitation. And that is 150. And that, I don't have which well.
I think this was to provide a source when the wells go out so that they don't have to come back. Because they've, if I remember him saying, they've lost a couple of wells and then they've struggled to find the funding during the year to go get that. So this is to give him a base, if I remember correctly, of funds to repair wells.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Then we go down to paint Pleasant Lake Avenue tank.
I'm gonna learn how to paint.
So the question is, you have to find somebody who wants to do it. And that's,
1.7.
that came in a lot higher than they had anticipated, if I'm not mistaken. I think the well on,
Two, wasn't it?
down there, what's this, in front of the building? That goes to East Harwich.
39?
39.
Yeah.
There's a well on there's a water,
Tank?
a tank all the way up.
But we're talking about the tank on 6, right? You see from 6.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the cost 5 years ago was
Yeah.
over $1 million. And they had to find somebody, I think they were either from Tennessee, they were down south, nobody else wanted to climb that high, and they did a good job. Okay? So paint the well,
Paint the
Paint the
tank.
tank.
paint the tank, sorry, 1.75. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
You'll get old too, it sort of floats away.
It's already happening. What are you talking
Floats
about? When I
away.
get old?
Okay, so then the final is wastewater. That's what I'm getting here, right?
Wastewater.
232.
Collection system improvements?
Yes, for phase 4. No. Collection system improvements, yes, 75,000. Yeah, I'm just looking,
And
to
this
s-
was,
I'm just seeing if something's
this
written.
wasn't part of water department.
Here it is. The capital request is intended to fund unforeseen improvements and upgrades to the wastewater collection system, 75 grand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So in essence, we've approved the budget. We have to look at the plan now. Does anybody know a shorter way of getting through the plan?
The entire plan, the rest of the plan? Are there, could we do it sort of in reverse for if people have issues with any of the items in the 4 out years? Is that?
That's the way that I was thinking is, we've approved the 24. If you look at the following years, and I'm asking you then to, you have to go to the request to find out what is in the future years, right?
Well, on the approval of the out years, or it's kind of a tentative, because they'll come back each year.
Yeah, I mean, this is, yes.
But this is the plan that gets submitted to town for approval,
Exactly.
right? So,
This draft plan here,
Yeah.
that was passed out today, I guess,
Yeah.
Appendix C, this committee has approved everything through 2028 as of last year.
Yes.
So, and these items here between 2025 and 2028 are the same things?
not necessarily.
Okay.
They could be different amounts, there could be new projects,
Yeah.
which we went through.
But they have been presented to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, we've heard the numbers, and the question is, do you want to go through like I just did 25 on every number? Or do we accept, because they're out years, their estimates are out years anyway, do we approve the entire plan? And if we have any problems,
The nuclear option, just vote it through.
I would have one condition. I'm happy to approve the plan with the condition that we just decide on, that Joe addresses the humidity issue over at the library, to move that forward if possible.
2026.
Right. Otherwise, and if not, it stays where it is, but I'm fine with the plan.
well, what we can do is, we're probably, I don't know when we're going to meet again. Oh. The plan is subject to change. That's the bottom line. We know what the budget is, but it's always been, the budget and the plan are subject to change. The question is, we've heard, we literally have heard and read everything we see in the plan.
Agreed.
So if we approve the first year, and the third, fourth, and fifth year are also subject to change, more likely in future years, is acceptable to approve the plan.
Is there any other?
Yes, Paul?
Well, yeah, just for my edification here.
Surely.
29 is all new numbers, 28, 27, 26,
Right.
25, there may be some adjustments. I know of the 740 represents an increase from 590 for the library today.
Right.
We heard that. Just for me, what are the other things in here? Are there isolated items that indicate, or is it just too many to get involved
I
with?
think some of the biggest ones, if I remember correctly, were the construction of the building for the DPW, which was a significant increase.
Yeah.
And all of the vehicles were significantly increased in price. I remember those.
Yeah.
I was going to go through it myself at some point before Monday night and sort of tick and tie what the changes were, but
Well,
And the
might it be
harbor-
helpful so we go into Monday night sort of feeling like we've discussed this rather than
well,
just-
we've gone through each one of the projects
No,
in
I know,
detail,
but
right?
I've missed a meeting and we've had.
Yeah, the electronic records that was presented today is new. That was definitely new.
Let's start at I sometimes have trouble following when.
library.
Which one are you talking about?
The library.
The
The
library.
library, oh, yeah, no, I got the library, okay, right, that one I know, we've gone from 690 to 740.
And the electronic records for the town hall that we heard this morning.
Yeah.
That was new. That was new, so it never came up last year, that was 200,000 this morning.
Okay, yeah,
So that was new.
okay.
That's an addition.
But that's a budget year.
So actually, the
Right.
whole 600 represents new, 100, 100, 100, 100 out in the out years?
No, the electronic records for the town hall that we heard this morning.
Right.
Only the 200 was new to us, correct?
But the remaining out years was already part of the budget of last year, or the plan?
That's a
So-
good question.
Talking
Yep,
about
yep, I hear you.
information
I hear you.
technology, right?
Yep.
Right.
200 was new today, where are the out years new?
So I'll go through what some of the changes were if you want me to.
Go ahead.
So in 2024, we had in administration, the beautification of Harwich. That came out. That's not in there anymore. And that was all streetlights and things like that. That just got deleted. Channel 18 reduced their costs.
Let me find Channel 18 at the top.
Okay, they've reduced their cost. No, they're the same numbers
Okay.
as they were last year. Facilities maintenance in 2026 is the same. The Queen Anne,
Well, with the exception of the addition of 150, right, today, that we heard today in the library.
right, I didn't get to that one yet. I'm just starting at the
I
top.
thought you meant the whole
No.
section on facilities.
There was a
Okay, sorry.
significant increase, almost close to $5.5 million roughly in that DPW complex, so that was a big change.
In 27.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And the Brooks Academy expenses for all of the years got pushed in just to get, we're kind of just wrapping that up in 2025, and there are no out-year costs after that. There's increases in ambulance costs and vehicle costs for all of them, fire, police, and water departments. The harbor master's numbers in 2027 are the same. Sorry, I skipped over 2026, but let's just keep going. The elementary school cost went up. And in the out years, 2029 is a new one, so they've gone up by 40,000. The technology is the same, and except for the what we heard today with the electric records and content.
And the out years to that one new, the 100 each year?
Let's say that again. Yeah, all of it,
those are
all of
new.
those are
Okay,
new.
thank you for
The
clarifying.
police cruisers were never in the capital budgets, because they, at the time, were probably, they were considered an expense, but we moved them back in, so that's kind of new, but it's not a new expense in the sense that it was getting spent somewhere, it just wasn't in the capital budget.
But again, from my understanding here, so this is several cars are purchased new every year, 5 years.
Right.
And
They
roughly
rotate.
3 cars or something. if I'm-
Correct,
And then they rotate everything through.
right. The road maintenance prices have gone up by about 100,000, a little more in 2029 by 200,000. His vehicle replacements went up in terms of prices. You'll remember that Dan has added new well construction because that became an issue that wasn't an issue last year, so he's got to build a new well. And the Chatham Road improvements to the building, and I think, Dan wants to add a place where he's spending so much money on vehicles to house those vehicles. I'm gonna guess this 1.5 is light, but it is what it is right now. He did say, based on Link's number, he probably needs to go back and revisit that at some point, which he probably will do next year. So that will probably be more money. So, maybe I can do it. No, I don't know if I want to do it this way. There's a significant increase in fiscal year 26 from last year over, it's actually a reduction in 26 from last year.
An increase in 27.
Oh, increase in 26, sorry, of about $2 million, which is a little bit of everything, frankly. I don't think there's one project that drove that in 26. Oh, maybe adding the records content and the police cruisers and some additional cost for vehicles is what really drove 2026 to go up from 5 million to 7 million. So that was a $2 million increase. In fiscal year 2027, we went up by 10 million. And that is for the new well construction
And the DPW.
and the DPW's cost. Those are the two drivers, plus what we talked about with vehicles and technology. Those are the drivers of the cost going up in 2027. Does that make sense?
It doesn't have the baseline, you just have to
Yeah.
say.
So from 10 million to 19 million, we went up,
Right.
right? And
2028.
2028, we went from 14.4 to call it 16 million. And the costs there are primarily the police cruisers, a little bit on vehicles and road maintenance, and then the big one is the Chatham Road improvements for 1.5 million.
And 29 would be brand new.
And 29 is brand new.
Okay?
And remember that, in 2025, the $10 million project came off. So that number is down by 10 million, almost 9 million. So
Oh, so it was 20 million.
it was 20 million
And we're
with,
down.
where they thought they were gonna get some infrastructure funds, but they didn't.
But
So they
isn't-
took that project off.
Is this realistic with the zeros in 27, 8, and 9 for wastewater or watershed? I mean,
So what
gigantic.
what they said was, what I heard them say was that until they figure out where they're gonna treat the wastewater, they can't add another phase of it,
Section, yeah.
right? So they've gotta get this phase done and then the next step, and so, may we see cost for treatment of wastewater at some point? We may, but that
going to
discussion
go-
has to be done and they have to figure that out. They can't go any further
Is it gonna go to DY?
once they've
When it-
finished
when it
each
says
Chatham,
zero,
East Harwich.
Conceivable, it'd be before 2029.
Yes,
Yes.
but this gives you the opportunity that we didn't invent it next year. I mean, to me, it tells me it's a sort of like a red light blinking, that we have a zero line for a major capital expenditure, but we don't
With
want
no
to
information.
put a dollar there, and we don't want to put 40 million there.
So maybe an asterisk or
Well,
something.
zero works. It's
What is the
it's a
asterisk?
numbered, it's a placeholder, and we don't want to play with placeholders. That used to be the word of the day, it's a placeholder.
You'd put in a number as a flag.
Yeah, and we're gonna change it, but if you put zero, you know
something's
that,
coming.
something's coming, but you don't want to anticipate a high or a low.
Yes.
Okay, so we're really voting on 58,348,931 as the 5-year total. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would just like to hear the resolution of that. I'm fine with the plan.
What's the resolution?
Of whether we can move that humidifier forward for the library.
Move the
Because that
library
was
to
today's,
26.
that was today's work, right? That's a
Yes.
new one, that's all I'm
Well,
saying. Sorry, I'm being a pill.
It'll be taken up.
Recommendation or that.
Okay, so let me remind you that our next meeting is Monday night, 6 o'clock. We're all invited,
Right here.
okay? We're all invited.
We dress up for that one?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Put a tie on?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's a joint meeting, the BOS, FinCom, and us. Mark, are you friends with Dan? Do you have his email?
Dan,
Working.
oh, Dan, yeah, I will call him and remind him about Monday night at 6.
Would you please?
Yeah, and Peter Hughes of the Finance Committee should be sending out reminders, but I'll even.
Oh, that's right, he's on finance with you.
Yeah, yeah. But, yeah, Peter should be putting out a reminder, and
Yeah, that'll work out perfectly, and do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
The meeting is officially over.